is Alex Huditan and Rupert Hodges are here in the studio with me. Say hello, guys.
Hello, guys.
How we doing?
Hello.
Okay, so first things first, let's call up the comment sections. Guys, just drop any comments you have below. We'll read them out. Any questions that you have, we'll do that as well. So basically what we want to try and get to, one sec, there's a comment here. Okay, AD's here. Hello, Danny. Hello, Hudi, and others. So you might know AD. Let's just bring his comment up on the screen.
Hello, Adi.
Cool. Alex, do you want to just give a little bit of background on yourself, and then we're going to go over and the same for Rupert as well?
Right. So my name is Alex Huditan. My friends call me Hudi. I am originally from Romania, and before starting my Amazon business, I used to have a corporate job. I was working in a cubicle. I did that for about 3 years. And something inside me was trying to get out. Like I felt like a void inside. Like I couldn't stand it anymore. And I tried different types of businesses, but they weren't very profitable. And then I found out about Amazon FBA. And together with a few of my friends, we were masterminding and we were deciding which products we want to sell. And in 3 months, each of us had one product up on Amazon. And that was 6 years ago. And I've been selling on Amazon ever since. And in the last 4 years, I've been doing 7 figures every year. And I work less than 4 hours per month on my business. And I'm enjoying my freedom. This is I like to link it to what you were saying about the wealth. I believe big part of my wealth is my freedom.
Yeah.
And the way I choose to live my life.
Yeah.
Yes. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense, and we'll get into this and dig deep into that, Alex, because your mindset, in particular, is outstanding for me. Is the fact that you can look at it 2 ways. It's like you literally do what you want when you want, and you're still earning. Whereas that comes from up here. People don't always realise that. So, it's a fascinating story, which I'll chat with you about shortly. I just want to bring in Rupert. Rupert, do you want to give a little bit of background on yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So I work in leadership development. I work with individuals and teams and groups of people, helping them to do 3 things really: to be more resilient, to resonate or to build relationships with each other, and to get results. And so I actually work with some of the corporate people, I guess, that Hudi or Alex is talking about. And I suppose the reason I now do it from outside of big organizations is maybe a little bit like Alex was describing, is that at some point I found myself in a meeting just thinking, geez, I'm not sure how much more of this I can take. This is just, this is not inspiring. And most of all for me, it wasn't enjoyable. I was doing pretty well from a career point of view, but I just wasn't enjoying it. So that prompted me to say, okay, there was a few other factors in there as well, which I guess we'll get into as we go through this session, but prompted me to say, okay, so give it a try, go independent and see what you think.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Alex, first question for you. When did your relationship with money change? Like, you're from Romania, right? So you had a humble beginnings as you came up, and now you're a 7-figure seller and multiple businesses. Talk me through when you realized that change occurred, of how you think about money today versus back when you was younger.
Right. There were a few things that influenced my thinking. One of them was meeting somebody that was an example of how life can be and how money can work for you, and you don't have to work for money. What I mean by that is in Romania, the average salary per month is about $400. People work at least 8 hours per day to get that. If you want to make more money, usually from my perspective, you had to either have a deal with the state, with the government, because that's how big riches are made in Romania. I thought so. This was before. This was my mindset before. Or you were like a pimp. You had some girls, and I don't need to explain too much of that. Yeah. So I met this guy. His name is David Culberson. He was the same age as me, but he was living a totally different life. He had a big villa in the south of Spain, all the toys like the R8, the cars, everything, and he had traveled around the world, and he was teaching other people, like he was sharing with others what he had learned. And this for me was a shock, because I thought, why is he doing this? He's trying to get something from me. It's not okay. What's going on? And just talking and him becoming my mentor, I discovered that something else is possible.
Yeah.
Just by just this shift was very important to me, because I had no proof before in my life in Romania of someone that lived this life. It doesn't mean that the people in Romania, that there aren't people in Romania that live like this, but I haven't met them before, hadn't met them before. So yes, that was a big thing for me, meeting somebody that was living the life that I want, and seeing that they're not a genius, they're not extraordinary, they're not Superman.
Yeah, they're just like us. They're everyday normal people.
Exactly. It's just a different in perspective, in mindset, in how we view things. So that was a big thing. I was watching a lot of documentaries and a lot of things about the world, and seeing how things are going to shit. Like Zeitgeist. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Like and inside, I was feeling that even if I want to make a lot of money, it would be for nothing, because the world is going to shit anyways.
Yeah.
Because the politicians are corrupt. We have so much big difference in wealth, like how it's distributed. And the 1% are taking it all, and they're not leaving anything else for the 99%. And this was also in my head then. I was reading also some spiritual books about how to detach yourself from everything, how money is not kind of the root of all evil. Stuff like that. So this was how it was before, and then the process for me was to rewire my brain and to make it see more the good and less the bad. And focus my energy and my attention where I want to be, and my dreams and my aspirations, and give more attention to that rather than my fears and the negativity that exists. It didn't go away. It's still there. It's just that my focus is not there anymore.
So what I want to do is set the stage here. Is like, we're 9 minutes in. Like, normally we get straight into it, but I think it's very important to understand the premise of the call. What we're talking about today is about how we think of stuff, right? We're in a downturn. I'm on offense. Everyone else is on defense. I'm going to get to Rupert in a minute. I'll quickly tell you my backstory. I had the same thing as you, right? Kid from a council estate. I was wired to think that rich people are evil and all this kind of stuff, and having money is bad. And this is why you see where you got poor people who win the lottery, and then they don't know what to do with that money because they're poor relationship and education with wealth. This took me until 2011, when I sat down and I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and there was one part in there. It said, I'll paraphrase here. It says, money will amplify who you are. And what that means is if you're a good person, if you've got money, then that's great. If you're a complete arsehole, that will amplify who you are as well. And that was a real big change for me. Do you know what I mean? It took, it made me understand, like, hold on a minute, this is, there's something here. And that's part of the programming is growing up, you know? And so what I've gone from now and to now, like I'd say to people out there, like if they're struggling financially with their mindset with stuff, go and read that book or go onto YouTube, right? We've got a lot of time on our hands now. Go onto YouTube. You can listen to the audio book on there. Even more than that, most recently, you've got a podcast by Naval. It's incredible. It's about how you can think about becoming rich and what you need to do and like owning parts of businesses and all these things. And it was
very short, very bite size.
They're very short. Yes. Yeah, you can listen to it for 3 hours or you can have it for really short. Cy B just said on YouTube here, wealth is a state of mind. Absolutely. So that is the point I was going to get to next. Wealth starts up here. Before you look at, you could be rich in the bank account, but be poor up here. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because it comes down to your mindset. And I think it's really important to remember now is that where you can, like we're in this situation in the world and we've got to try and make the most of the situation. And if our mindset is always on defense, we can't put energy out there to get to that next stage, to help these people out there, you know, try and create more jobs, you know, think creatively about what we can create and innovate into the future as entrepreneurs. You know, there's only 3 of us on this call, but there's millions of entrepreneurs out there that, you know, can obviously make a difference in the world if they all come up with solutions to things. And they're going to be the part of helping us get through this downturn and this recession at the moment. And I think it's really important for Amazon sellers to understand is that it's fine to be scared. Right? We know there's uncertainty out there, but some adjustments with inside your business and stuff and how you think about stuff on a daily basis is very, very powerful. You know? So as a leadership coach, Rupert, can I bring you in here, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Do you want me to tell you a little bit of the backdrop?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I think this idea of so I you know, if we're going to get very philosophical, what you call the Stoics. The Stoic philosophers, and they would tell us that it's not the thing, it's our reaction to the thing. Yeah. So whatever happens, so as you're describing, Danny, this pandemic is there, and there are, I think we're getting on for 8 billion people on the planet. There are 8 billion different reactions to what's happening. Mm-hmm. And also within a day, probably people feel more confident or less confident. They feel more worried or less worried. Yeah. And so for me, I think that idea of money being a multiplier or an amplifier of who you are is really, really curious. I think if I look back at my own relationship with money, so I guess, you know, in terms of the way we're telling the story, I think I'm probably more of a middle class kid, I suppose. So my mother was a teacher, my father was a police officer, and I suppose for me, money became really important when my dad died when I was 15. Yeah, and so that I think made me realize the value of things like insurance. It also made me realize the value of making the most of the time you have, and getting the most out of what you want, of your opportunities. And I remember I got a completely errant tax bill. I got a tax bill from Her Majesty's government when I was 19 years old for about £15,000, and I'd had one part-time job at that point. And I just didn't understand this. And honestly, it made me extremely worried, extremely anxious. I had this bit of paper in front of me. This is going back to this would have been, I don't know, 92, 93, 91, 92, something like that. And I was looking at it thinking, oh my God, I'll never be able to pay this bill. I don't have this money. And then I went, and I was staying with some family friend at the time, and I went down, and the father, my friend's father, he said to me, "Rupert, are you okay?" And I said, and I'd been crying with fear, and I said, I just showed him this bill, and he said, "This is an estimate." And I mean, I've got good verbal reasoning skills, I've got good mathematical reasoning skills. He said, "It's just an estimate. What they really want you to do is they want you to ring up and have a conversation with them. And so when I rang up, they said, okay, what savings have you got? What earnings have you had? And they said, oh no, your bill you've got a outstanding bill then of about, I don't know, it's less than £100. And it just made me realize you have to, even then it made me stop and think, okay, so that panic response isn't helpful for me.
Yeah.
That thing of just thinking, the fight or flight response or the rabbit in the headlights isn't helpful. So actually, even in those moments, that taught me just to get curious, to start to ask questions, to ask the people around, say, hey, look, I'm really worried about this thing. What advice would you give? And so now that's something that I've tried to hold with me throughout my career, but also particularly now when we're in this kind of massive period of uncertainty, to say, okay, what data do I see? What can I get curious about? What can I be interested in? Who are the people that I can talk to and give me a different opinion? And so it's gone from that gentleman, Mark, who was my mate's dad, to on Friday, I was having a conversation with a friend who's a hedge fund manager, and I was interested in what his view was. We're trying to see are we at the bottom of the market from a stocks perspective, and he was giving me his boss's view. And then I was going online just thinking, so okay, how long did the 2007, 2008 sort of bear market, sales market where stock was going down, how long does that last for? And just trying to say, okay, what are these little bits of data, and start to form a slightly more accurate or more informed version than, oh my God, there's a pandemic, everything's going to shit. Excuse the language.
No, you can swear, you can fucking swear on here, it's fine, don't worry about that.
Okay.
So talk to me about some leadership stuff that you're dealing with. Obviously you'll deal with CEOs and stuff of companies, and leadership's so important now because they've got to lead the teams and put everyone's mind at ease. There are people obviously being laid off from their jobs, etc. It's different in our world because obviously we're selling online. One of the biggest impacts that's happening on us is if we don't sell essential goods, that's having an impact on the businesses. So what do we do here? You can't just think positively to get out of shit. You've got to do stuff as well. But it does help to get up every day and not feel like you're laying on the floor and dragging yourself around, to go in, changing what you think about and how you approach stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's such, I think, and I believe is that your thoughts is what drives you, right? So your physiology, everything else. If you've got a thought process where you're upset, you're negative, you're going to be exhausted, you're going to have fatigue, and you're not going to get nothing done. Yeah. But if you can shake that, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. So I can see a few comments coming in. So I can see Tiffany and Stephanie, this idea of thoughts and can you change them, and habits being key as well. So Hudi's example of when I think it was you plus a couple of friends said, okay, let's pick a product when you first started, and then try and get that into our kind of sales process. We'll try and launch that. And I love that as an idea. And I see that in habits is people somehow want to go from being like as if it's binary, saying to not being the person they want to be to suddenly being the person they want to be. And actually what you need to do is take small steps. So understanding how the commercialization process works, understanding how you go to market, choosing a product, having some people that you work with who you trust, you can rely on, get good advice. They're all steps in the right direction of, unless you take each of those steps, you just don't get any closer to where you want to go. And the first step, as somebody much wiser than me has said, is always the most important.
Yeah, without doubt. Hudi, do you want to say anything here, mate?
I was thinking about the current situation and how I changed my habits and my perspective on this, because the last few weeks I've been spending way too much time on my phone, checking all the opinions, the projections, and all the stuff, maybe 12 to 14 hours per day. Then a few days ago, I'm in Bali right now, and they have Bali New Year's when it's called it's silent day for one day. There's no internet on the island. There's everybody's in their homes, and they're trying to be as quiet as possible. So I didn't connect to anything, and it was like pushing a reset button. And I realized how connected I was to all this, and how my brain, my subconscious brain, was trying to solve all these situations and problems even when I was asleep. Like I was waking up and I was taking my phone and how many cases are today in Brazil, and how many are in UK, and why is France better than all this stuff. And I think I did whatever was in my power to get safe, like to be safe. Like I'm in quarantine. I have very little contact with the outside world. And that's kind of it. Like I can't really do much more about this thing now for myself.
Yeah.
So why worry? Why should I put all this negativity? Why should I focus? Why should I give it attention? So I started a diet, and no more news about the virus in my world. I in the last 3 days, I don't know any updates. I don't know who's been infected. I don't know the numbers, and it's very good.
Yeah.
I'm putting together some material, like free stuff to give away. And like Danny said, I'm using this time to be on the offensive. I'm using this time to grow, and I'm using this time to find opportunities. And sometimes opportunities are not only monetary.
No,
Opportunities are for a chance to grow in any part of your life. It's not like oh my God, I'm staying next to the stock market, and what is Apple going to do, and what is Tesla going to do, and all this. No, I don't care about that. I care about the way I'm treating myself and the people around me. And I want to be a voice of good in these times, not adding to the noise, not adding to just an opinion. Yeah. I think the government should give 1,300, not 1,200 to everybody. And I think the doctor should wear less masks. And like, I cannot control that. My opinion doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, I think there's so many words of wisdom in there, Hudi. I think this idea of there's a book which is an old classic now, but I think it started as the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He equaled it with the 8 Habits. So there may even be a 9 or a 10 by now. I'm not sure, but the idea of understanding and checking your thinking. As I think Owen says about in the chat about, okay, what is it you are concerned about? And you're describing there being concerned about a pandemic, literally a global issue, versus what can you control? What can you control? And the circle of control is much smaller than the circle of concern. And being aware of what, and so I remember having a colleague at work, very smart. She used to worry about making decisions and worry about when things went wrong and how to solve problems. And then she came up with this question, which was, what do I control and what am I responsible for? And it just narrows the focus, and it gives you a way to take some sort of action, to move forward, to say, okay, so this is how I'm going to either manage it for myself or try to solve that challenge, or, which I think Danny's kind of agenda in this is how to take that opportunity. Yeah.
I was going to say here, the next thing I want to talk about is accountability. And I'm going to talk this from a selfish point of view. Do you know why I do these at 4 p.m. every single day? Because I don't care about money. I care about people. And my Achilles heel is people and accountability. If I say I'm going to do something, then I want to do it. By saying and committed to this at 4 o'clock every day, it doesn't matter what shitstorm's going on with everything else at the moment across all the businesses. I'm logged in. I have to do this 4 p.m. every day. So from a selfish point of view, it's one of the reasons that drives me on. It's the same thing where I'm doing with masks, like these matching donations and things. I'm doing that to help other people. But at the same time, I'm doing this and I'm still running my businesses, and I signed clients last week because it came down to that part of my mindset. Does it make sense? And I think accountability is a big thing as well, because it's very easy for me where I'm at across 3 different businesses now. I could sit in bed on WhatsApp speaking to my team, do this, do that, and then put Netflix on in the background and lose momentum. But when publicly stuff like this, I'm accountable. So this is my daily habit of accountability. It helps me and it also helps other people. Yeah. Alex, what are you doing? Oh, sorry, let's quickly go back to you, Rupert. What are you doing in terms of accountability?
Well, I think that's a really interesting one. So being accountable to yourself is probably where it starts, and following through on that, and being accountable to others. And one of the things is if you look back through history, is really clear. The people you spend time with influence your behavior. Yeah. So if you think 100%. Back to school, if you were hanging out with the bad kids at school, you probably ended up demonstrating some of those behaviors. If you're hanging out with the good kids at school, you probably ended up demonstrating some of those behaviors. And that's true through life. There's a nice bit of research which was something about the IQ of the person you're hanging or spending most time with when you're 12 years old has a direct correlation to your social economic success. So at that point, I know at least Alex and Danny are thinking, okay, who was that person? Who was I hanging out with most when I was 12 years old? But who you spend time with, and we think of it maybe if we're parents, we think of it as maybe the peer pressure that's being applied to our own children or something like that, or we think about our nieces and nephews, who are they spending their time with and all that kind of stuff. But being publicly accountable, sharing what you're going to work on, and then following it through. Yeah. There's all kinds of things going on there. One is you're part of a group. You're part of a group you want to be part of. You're spending time with people. You're also getting kind of if you like, likes or pushes towards your self-esteem. Say, actually, the type of person I want to be, all these things that I'm doing every day at 4, I think you said, Danny, then this is me putting another tick in the box that says, yes, I've done one of the things I want to be known for, or how I want to see myself. And that's really important for that's how we build habits, is saying, what do we want to do? And then just make it step by step. Moving towards doing that thing. And
if you don't do it for you, like if you're not doing it for yourself and you're doing it for others, it's part of motivation. It's the pendulum swing, right? Yeah. So you see where people like when we talk about being on a roll, right? So you have momentum. Momentum goes 2 ways. It can go down or it can go up. And so as entrepreneurs, we have this cycle. And so this cycle goes like this. So we're up, down, up, down. It's how do we stay at the top, at the peak? And what do we do when we get to the valleys? How do we treat those valleys to get back towards the peak again? And it comes back down to the mindset of that. So Alex, honest opinion for you, once this all hit, how did you feel? Did it have like a physical impact on you, or did it just drive you even harder to go, right, I now need to come up with more ideas, generate more business, create more jobs, etc.?
Right. When it hit, I was kind of what we were talking before. I was looking at it from a positive side, like what can be good from this. I was looking at myself and I was thinking, okay, this is from what I read, this isn't really going to kill me. So it's a very small chance that it will kill me. I don't want to spread it to others, so I want to be in quarantine. And I want to get to Bali because that's my favorite place in the world. I was in Costa Rica, so I changed my flights, my plans, or everything a few times just to get to my favorite place. Yeah, I think that's also something to bear in mind because I'm planning ahead. Yeah, I'm thinking if I'm going to be stuck here for a year, this is where I want to be. Yeah. I don't want to be in an apartment in Romania. I don't want to be in an apartment or a house in Costa Rica. I want to be in Bali. Yeah. So I made all the everything I could to get here. This was one. And then I was thinking about my closed family, my close friends, and my community. And then I was thinking, how can I share with everybody for what I'm feeling, what direction I'm going, and how to take more people with me.
Yeah, exactly. So you're basically you're taking, like, what you just used there is that how do you take others with you, right? Which is a very important point, because I think people, when they think of wealth and stuff like that, they think of a selfish level, right? They don't think is that people, when you get to a certain stage, you're like a cheerleader for others as well. You're trying to help others to get up there as well. You don't just like shut down. It's not like, oh, okay, I've made it, that's all well and good. It's about helping others as well. And you made an important point there, is that part of it is, how do you bring other people with you?
But it's like you said before. Sorry, Rupert. The money just brings out who you are. So it's not a rule that you have to help other people. If you feel inside you don't want to help other people, don't force yourself. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like just do it for yourself, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
There might be another time in your life when you will want to help others. But for now, don't do it just because Danny and Hudi and Rupert are saying it in a webinar.
Yes,
in a call, just if you feel like spending more time on yourself, I think that's amazing too. Like if you need time for yourself, I go into months and not talk with people, and I have no regret, because I know I'm coming out on the other side as a better version of myself, and in that state I can serve better other people, rather than coming from a place of neediness of if only I can save one more people, then I'll feel great about my life, because my life is incomplete without helping other people. No, it's okay. This is fine. My glass is full.
You can't help anyone unless you've worked on yourself. You can't help others anyway. So like what you're saying is, don't put the horse before the cart.
Yes.
Fix what's going on in your world. Make that a better place for you, and then you can help others.
Yes. Don't skip stages, and don't do it just because you read it in a book that it's supposed to be like, yes, I'm supposed to help people. Let me help people, and then I'll be okay. I don't see it like that anyway.
Go on, Robert. I'll bring you in here.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So normally when I do some life coaching with people, and often it's very senior leaders who it starts with a conversation about their organizational strategy or some element of their leadership within the business. And what they end up talking about often is the balance of their lives. And they talk about, and a few things come up, and they're not things that would be surprises to anyone. They talk about their health. They talk about the health of the people around them. They talk about friendship, family, relationships, the quality of those relationships, their sense of self-esteem, what they're offering to people, what they're not. The extent to which they feel like they're being the person that they want to be. And so I think I think if you're doing stuff for other people without thinking about, without knowing where that comes from, then it's probably not sustainable. But as Hudi is describing, this idea of reflecting on yourself, taking some time out for yourself, being clear on who you are and what you want to do, that kind of more thoughtful approach to your life seems to me to be more sustainable. And it doesn't really matter which direction you go in, which I think is what both Danny and Alex are saying is, but it's, as long as it's true to what you want to do, because otherwise at the end, what you'll find out is that you may end up with regrets. And for me, it goes back, there's a couple of stories. So one is my wife and I took 6 months out traveling the world when we were just coming up to our 30th birthdays. And one of my colleagues at the time said, "Oh, I think you're being very brave." And and I'm not trying to be big-headed about it. I just didn't see it that way at all. I actually, my dynamic or my perspective was totally different, which was, when I'm lying on my deathbed, I am not going to be regretting 6 months of traveling around the world, trying to learn things and experience different things. I'm much more likely to be regretting not doing that and staying at work for another 6 months. So for me,
Yes.
that was really, really, really obvious to me. Now, part of that's informed by my dad dying relatively young. He was only kind of 43. But also part of it is sort of, just I think a lot of it is inspired by that, actually. But for me, yeah, it's about understanding who are you, what do you want to be, and that's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah. I also think as well is if going back to the adversity thing, because obviously if people are feeling adversity now, it may not be directly impacting them in the outside world. They may be sitting at home, but it is a weight on their mind about can they run their businesses, or if they're employed by someone, do they still have? And I think a big part of dealing with setbacks and stuff like that is how many have you been through previously? There might be people that sitting here in the audience that have never really had a setback, and this is their first taste of setback. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's like you're constantly having setbacks. It's like you might get all the Instagram bullshit business owners, but real business is like their shit hits the fan daily. It does for me now. I've just got immune to it. But like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, do you see where I'm coming from? So like, then you're terrified. You're like, we called it the darkest hour just before dawn. It's like, can you meet your bills? Can you pay your mortgage? Can you do that? And then you reach a stage of cash flow, and then you build on it from there. And things get a bit easier. But I think the other part is that there are people out there who have not had those experiences yet. So the magnitude of what's happening today is much bigger impact on them than it is on me. But it's also relative, right? I'll give you another example. If I was living on a council estate back 30 years ago, and this was today, and I had my last £20 in the pocket to spend on food, I would feel worse now than losing 50 grand today. Does it make sense? Because it's the relative to your situation.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter how many zeros are at the end. It's relative to your situation. Because that £20 impact on me 30 years ago would be massive, because I'm like, where am I going to get food from? So I do see there's a mass part of that reality there. But still, like, if you are not able to think about, what you're going to do to get out the situation, then you are going to be in this situation where, if you shut down, you can't creatively think. If you can't creatively think, you can't execute on stuff. And it's a perpetual thing. So it's so important to understand is that times like this, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have bad days, but you can't freeze and you can't give up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really interesting phenomenon which I was on a virtual pub with a few friends yesterday, and we were talking about this as well, which is this idea. Time is really, people talk about time as a great healer, but also over time you begin to see things differently. And so just if I look back to when I was about 20 or so, a friend and I went traveling around the world, and we ran out of money before we were due to fly back, and we had the option to change our tickets. And I think this is like 95, 96. And he said, you know what I could do? I could get some money from my dad, and then we'll pay him back when we go back. And I was like, oh, and honestly, it was about £200, £250, something like that. And I was very cautious about it. And he said, you know what? I think in 5 years' time, we're not going to be bothered about that £250. And it's just such a moment of truth. It seemed really true at the time, instantly true. I also really wanted to stay. I was in Bali at that point, so I wanted to stay as well. Yeah, so I could see the attraction. But it just really, that again informed me a little bit about, okay, over time things change, and your perception of how big a deal it is. And there's a psychological phenomenon whereby there's a difference between your experiencing self, what you're experiencing in the moment, and your remembering self. So when you look back and you say, oh, well, no, listen, there's definitely been some things that I've done and really enjoyed them, but then on reflection thought that probably wasn't my finest hour. Okay. And then there's been things that I've done where I've thought, this is really difficult. I'm really struggling. This is really too much for me. And then a year later, I'm describing it as amazing learning experience. I feel like I'm stronger, more resilient as a result of it. And both of those things are true. And so sometimes being able to just count to 10, take a few deep breaths, seek out some information, and find out, okay, what is it you're worried about? How can you just narrow the uncertainty around what you're worried about? That they're all steps in the right direction.
Yeah. Any suggestions on books, podcasts? I mentioned Naval's podcast, which is phenomenal. I still, to this day, since it's been broadcasted, because I think it came out last year, he's adding new episodes, like they're only 2 minutes each, but like you've got the long 3 hours and 20 minutes. Today, a weekly, I still listen to that once a week, like snippets it. You know, like you get a bit, I'm going to go back to Naval. It's so inspiring. It's probably the best piece of content which relates to money, wealth, health, and everything else, and how you think about things.
Did you see his Joe Rogan interview?
Yes, I did. Yeah, the guy's got an incredible mind. He really has. And I think what I've done is that for people, like I've got friends still, you know, I'm from a working class background. They work on building sites and stuff like that. They work with their hands. I've sent them that podcast and I'm like, listen, this is all this shit's going on. You've got time at home. Listen to it, please absorb this, because I want them to change. You know, I want them to understand is that by owning a part of the company, running the company, having staff and stuff, if you want to get to that area of we call financial freedom. Financial freedom doesn't need to be a millionaire or anything else like that. Financial freedom is just giving you the opportunity to be able to live a life how you would live. Some people got financial freedom that live off 25k a year. True? Because they'll go and backpack somewhere and they'll live within side of their means. So do you have any suggestions of books or blogs and stuff that the audience can check out for inspiration?
Right when you mentioned this, I remembered the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and there's an exercise there for people to look into where you're budgeting your lifestyle. Yeah. So he says, think about the things that you want to do, things that you want to be, and things that you want to have.
Yeah.
We put them in lists and see how much that would cost. So, for example, I want to live in a beautiful mansion with 3 bedrooms and a big pool, and it has to be in Bali, and I have to have somebody taking care of the house, and I need a supercar, and I need to learn. That's things to have.
Yeah.
And then to be is you want to be a better dancer. You want to be better at Spanish. You want to be a better Amazon seller. How does that translate into money?
Yeah.
Well, the course for better dancer is $300 per month. I'm listening to I'm part of a mastermind and I'm paying this much per year. So per month is this much. And for the better, what else did I say? Something else, like to be a better something. You're taking Spanish lessons. You're paying also $200 per month. And then it's the things that you want to do. So you want to go skydive. You want to go, and these are things that you are budgeting for every month.
Yeah.
Once you have that all together, you're drawing the line and you're saying, okay, I need $12,000. This is my lifestyle that I want to have. And you're building, then you're dedicating kind of your life to doing that, to getting to that level, because that's what you want.
Yeah.
This is part of the 4-Hour Work Week. It's one of my favorite books, and it changed a lot my perspective on things. A second book I can recommend people. It's a very small book. It's about 60 pages, and I think people can read it in about an hour. I feel like it's the core of the core. Like it doesn't need anything else. And it's called The Science of Getting Rich.
Yeah.
It's a book written in 1917. Wallace D. Wallace, I think is the guy's name. And it's just very, very good. It's like essence. You know, it's very like short, like I said. And another book that I can recommend is like what you like you said, Danny, Rich Dad Poor Dad. For anybody thinking about wealth and how mindset impacts wealth. I think that's a great place to start.
So anyone who doesn't understand, I can't remember the full story, but basically you've got this guy, his dad, who I think he's a teacher or something like that, very well-to-do, nice guy, humble family man. His mindset on about, he's got his wage and he'll stay in that job for the rest of his life, and he doesn't think about stocks and shares or anything else or ownership or anything because it's all too dangerous, right? And then he's got that's the poor dad. And then you got the rich dad is like, no, this is what you do is you build a little business there, you slowly grow it, you retain like income from this business, you don't be frivolous with your money, then you invest in another one. And it takes years to get there, and slowly you build these little assets up, and that's where it comes as like the two different mindsets. Now we're not talking about the race to getting rich, because getting there isn't easy. It comes with lots of sacrifice as well, but what it comes down to is how you think about it, and financial education. Like if I was brought up with the same financial education that I've educated myself with now, I may be in a different position. I'm not complaining. I'm grateful for where I am now because I got to where I am now eventually. Does that make sense? But it's so important is that I try and address this with my daughter. Like my daughter's 14 years old. And she says to me, what option should I say, Dad? I say, look, fuck school. School is bullshit, basically. Get English, get maths, and you communicate, and you can go out there and graft. You're fine. The rest is just fucking bollocks, basically. I've got no respect for school. And my wife hates me for that, because for me, it's like, don't go and work for people. You're going to leave school. You'll be 16. You've got no overheads to worry about, no family or anything. Go and run your own business. So that's a different mindset, because when I was growing up, it was like, go and work on the building site as a kid. Does that make sense? Because that was the mindset back then to do that. So this is why I think, we're talking about wealth, we're talking about mindset. It's so important. And some books can change your life. And it took me, I'm 44 now. So what's that taking? I was in my 30s by the time I read that book. I wish I'd read that 20 years or earlier. Do you know what I mean? When it was published. But
yeah. I love this.
A couple that I would add. So there's a good book which I think is about, one of the challenges for people is the fear of whatever it is they're trying to do. Some people fear failure, some people fear success as well. There's a book called Eat That Frog, which is about the idea that actually you should go for the things that you're most fearful of and try to eat them and get it done. It may be uncomfortable, but actually that's the way you get to where you want to go. And what you're describing there, Danny, of the idea of from the Rich Dad Poor Dad, is the idea of incremental steps, and that's really, I come back to the idea of habits and the small things we do every day that just get us a little bit closer to where we want to go. And the idea, and sometimes I worry about it with my niece and nephew, so they're in their 20s, or two of my niece and nephew in their 20s, and they're very smart, very sensible, super amiable, and very switched on, very capable. But I do worry about the influences that tell them that everything happens overnight. And actually, in reality, the people that I look around at are people who are well set up financially, and also from a relationships point of view, are those that have put in effort, a little bit of effort every day. And then that's how you end up with things that have, you get a payback over a longer period of time.
I think it's a 7 to 10 year process of discipline. I would say, if to get to a situation, people have to be realistic. It doesn't come tomorrow. I know there's courses out there that will maybe promote that, but I think it can take 7 to 10 years for most people to fully get it, because you'll make mistakes like, people think that wealth is having the big TV and the flash car and everything. No, wealth is actually having money in the bank, and you don't always have that big TV. You don't always have the flash car. Maybe you traded the car in. Yeah. Because you use that money to invest in something else. Does that make sense? So I think people's opinion of wealth and money is different, and obviously happiness that gets tied in with it. All these disappointed people that didn't enjoy the journey, got there, got the money, and they're still fucking miserable. You've got to enjoy the process. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like that time frame.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
You don't like that?
I don't like it. I don't like it. 10 years.
Yeah.
Fucking shit, 10 years. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
No.
I know you got there a lot quicker, Alex. You're going to have to tell me how to get there fast. Yeah.
And I it's not about getting anywhere, actually. I think it's about enjoying the journey. So it may take you a lifetime, but who cares? As long as you're enjoying what you're doing. And I think that has to come first. And the sacrifices won't feel as sacrifices. Yeah. The journey will be much easier for you because that's what you chose to do. And of course, there's going to be struggles and there's going to be obstacles along the way, but you chose that path and you feel like that's what you want to do, then what comes in front of you, it's nothing. It's like, you're like, running through it.
Yeah. Do you know what? You don't like that timeline as well, Alex, because you are better than me when it comes to the wealth relationship and money relationship. You're better than me at it. So you got there a lot faster. I'm just saying is that people trying to make those adaptations, they may not get there at the same speed as you.
I also think the words we speak create our reality, and all these beliefs that we have then influence how our life is. So if I would think that I need 10 years, then probably my life would show me the proof of that belief. Yeah. If I believe that it can be done much faster, then my brain, I think, communicates with the world and processes the information differently, and I'm getting more opportunities. Do you guys know Darren Brown? The magician. Yeah. So he did a crazy experiment. He first interviewed people to see how their motivation is and how optimistic they are. Yeah. And then he laid on the street in front of them. I think it was 50 quid. Is there a 50 quid bill?
Yeah. 50 pound. Yeah.
50 pound. Yeah. So he laid it on the street, and all the people that were optimistic saw it and picked it up. All the people that were negative and had crazy ideas in their head didn't even see it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have you can check it on YouTube. It's on YouTube. It's amazing.
There's a really good. It's a really interesting point. There's a really strong correlation between optimism and social economic success. Yeah. So the more optimistic you are, it's not the only factor, but it's a pretty important factor in terms of correlating on some level of causation to social economic success or things.
Yeah. I also know people that go too much on the optimistic side, and I think that's also crazy. Like
delusional. Yeah, you can be deluded.
I can be delusional sometimes, but not in that kind of way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's too much for me when I see people that are like, you know what I mean? Like that the type.
I think that's really true. And so too much of anything is risky. So so lots and lots of optimism without any sense of kind of reality testing is problematic, right? If you've got lots of assertiveness, but you don't care, or you're not able to kind of tune in or have any empathy for what you're saying and how it impacts other people, then it's problematic. And that's the sort of thing that begins to either, disrupt yourself or disrupt your relationships with other people. So some level of balance or some balancing factor is really sensible. Yeah. And at the same time, so with optimism, you need some reality testing. And you also need some flexibility to come in there as well, to be able to take in new data, respond to it. So for example, we were on a call last week, and one of the outstanding stats that I remember was that I think it was either search or transactions around luxury goods was at 60 or 70% of what it was a year ago. Yeah. And I was thinking, I wonder how many people on the call want to go into luxury goods as part of their e-commerce business and are still thinking, I want to do that. I want to do that. Now they may be thinking, okay, so in the future it's going to come back, which it probably will. But if you're about to launch, if you think I want to go out and buy luxury goods at this point, you're probably more in the minority than the majority. And so if you just think, okay, I want to sell those products, then you're going to a niche, narrower and narrower market. Now, luxury goods tend to be quite resistant to the economy, but at the moment they're not, because we're in this period of shock.
Yeah. Quickly, before going to end, shut the show soon, I put it up on the screen for those people asking. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is one book. The Science of Getting Rich, I think Alex mentioned there. The 4-Hour Work Week. And I've also mentioned the Naval podcast. Is there any other books we need to put up on the screen?
There was one that was mentioned before, The Atomic Habits. Somebody put that in the chat, which I think is a really good one. That's about building habits, small changes, big results. And I'd recommend Eat That Frog.
Yeah, Eat That Frog. That's the one. Yeah. So just to kind of get to the point, we're going to wrap here. Now, what I would say to people that I was having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier on who was thinking about going out on their own and stuff. They're thinking about starting an Amazon business. And I always say to people, the quickest way to cash flow is going to be and reduced overhead is if you can go out and consult. If you've got an internet connection, like let's just say there's someone on the call struggling. They've got an Amazon business. Their money's tied up with inventory and stuff like that. The quickest way to cash flow is if you've got an internet connection is to join one of these guru.com, these kind of sites, and start looking to get work out there and pitching for work. That's the quickest way of getting going. I mean, once you got to that stage where you've got cash flow, then you can flip those into other projects and other businesses. But obviously, this is the toughest moment right now. So if you are in a cash crunch and you are at home, this is where you can start to do your research now. You've got time to think about, what am I good at? Pull up a spreadsheet and make these columns. What do I like? What am I good at? What can I excel at? And start to see all these come together and see if there's something there where you can be of service to someone else. So you may want to change like your working environment and the kind of job that you do now. But you know that making that jump and you may not have the cash to start the business. The quickest way to start is to consult based and sell some of your knowledge and then you can move from selling your time to selling products down the line and growing businesses. What can go on, Alex?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I also have a suggestion here. Because I just wrote a post recently on Facebook, ways to make at least $1,000 per month online with zero investment.
Yeah.
And how you do that, I found 5 ways that are tested and verified. They're all working. You can do transcripts.
Yeah.
You're being paid about $30 per hour. So you can get to $3,000, $4,000, you know, it depends on how fast you can type. Then there's websites where you can do micro tasks and you get paid for like filling in like a document or clicking something here and there. There's talking English with people that are not natives. You're just talking conversationally. And then there's a podcast agency, just people that have podcasts want to have cool people on the show. And there's entrepreneurs, influencers, and so on that they want to be on this show. So you put them together and you make about $100, maybe $200 for every connection that you make. And then there's also trying video games. So testing new video games pays about $9 for every 15 minutes that you do, and then you fill in a little survey at the end, and that's it. So this is for people that don't need a particular skill. You just need internet connection, laptop, maybe phone with some of these, and basic English.
That's good. That's. Do you want any parting thoughts, Rupert, from you before we go?
Just to end, I've started philosophically and I'll end philosophically. So Epictetus is a Stoical philosopher, and he said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. So back to Alex's point about being clear what you want and then working towards that.
Great. Guys, thank you so much for giving up your time on a Sunday. Big thank you to everyone in the audience and the plethora of comments here. Thank you for spending time with us today. I'll be seeing you again at 4 p.m. tomorrow. I'll announce the schedule for next week. But yeah, have a great Sunday. Be positive. Stay indoors. Look after your family. Much love, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny.
Cheers.